We're starting by Ezra Hashem Siman Ayin Hey and by Yoel Moshe, and the subject here is the interdependence argument, the famous argument made by Zionists that the two shvuos, the shvuos on the Jewish people and the shvuos on the nations of the world, depend on one another, and once they violate theirs, we can violate ours. And this is a very, very common fallacy. So we're going to discuss it today. Yeah. There are some apikorsim who say, because the nations didn't keep their oath not to oppress the Jews too much, that we have a heter to be over on our shvua. So I did a little research to figure out who said this, because the Rebbe doesn't say any names here, but obviously the person has to be someone who lived after the Holocaust, because they're using that as part of the argument, and someone who lived before 1959, which is when the Sefer was written. So, a lot of people have said arguments, but in that exact period, it's hard to find someone. So I looked around and I found that there's a Sefer called Netzer Matoi. There's a yid named Rav Tzvi Friedman. He was a government Rabbanut Rav in Bnei Brak. And Shalosh Shuvas Netzer Matoi, I have it here, page 1. And here in the middle, he's talking about the shiloh of a person who lives in Eretz Yisrael temporarily. He wants to know if he has to keep Yom Tov Sheni. So he says here that the person might be daito lachzer, might have in mind to go back, but he says we say Yidden are becheskas, they don't want to go back because there's a mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, and that's how he gets into this whole
speaking of Yom Tov Sheni, is there a real halacha that whoever temporarily has? Got you.
So take a look here in in page 2 of the Mar Makoimis. He says that Gam Watzinu Koelu Shechashashu Bimehem. Some people who were afraid. Lamasha Omer B'Gemara Shvuas Halal Lama Achash Lo Yalu Yisrael B'Chayma Yachad B'Yad Chazaka V'Achash Sheishbiach Kodesh Baruch Yisrael Shelo Yimrudu B'Umas Ha'olam V'Achash Sheishbiach Kodesh Baruch U'Umas Ha'olam Shelo Yishtabdu B'En B'Yisrael Yosim Midai U'Mikoyach Shvuas Elu. Because of these Shvuas, Nimnu Kama Shelo Lalos There Eretz Yisrael. There were some people who didn't want to go there Eretz Yisrael Shelo Lav Al Shvua. Okay. So this Rav Friedman says, "Avol kvar mevur yordei simon reish lamed vav." Yeah, in Hilchos Nedarim, Shnaim shenishbru zelasos davar echad. If two people made an agreement to do something and they swore to each other, the avar echad mehem al shvua, and one of them transgressed the shvua, hasheni potter. The other one is no longer bound by the shvua. Ve'en tzarich haTorah. And then he goes into the Makor, which we'll see soon, Mitzvah Hashem, and then he says. So he says, "Im Kain," a few lines down, "Kivan she'umas ha'olam avru al shvua shelo yishtabdu b'Yisrael yosim midai she'radu v'ratzchu starfu v'hargu l'loi chemla." That they persecuted and they killed, they murdered, they burned the Jews. Obviously, he's talking about the Holocaust here. Gazru aleinu gzeres kashus v'yitziku lanu ba'ofen mavil. They really oppressed the Jews in a tremendous way, in a shocking way. So ein lecha am ba'olam. Not only the Germans, but he says there's no other nation in the world she'ein yadav meluchlachlis b'dam Yisrael, that their hands are not dirty with the blood of Jews. Kedoshim utahirim shenishpach damam kamayim mizrach u'mayrav tzafim v'teimon, all over the world. Now why is he saying this part? Because he wants to bavorn here. He's saying, you're going to tell me, okay, so the Germans were over on their shvur, so let's go and fight back against them. Who said that it's mutter to fight back against all the nations? The Palestinians or whatever. Who said you have a right to do that? So of them, that's what he's coming to answer. He's saying that no, all the nations of the world did it, which is debatable because the Arabs didn't do much in World War II. So he says, "Kulam ke'echad avru al shvuasim shalei l'shabed b'Yisrael yosim midai." They were all over on the shvua. Mimela ein hashvua mechayeves oisanu kvar. Mutar lo nevalas b'chayma. And therefore, it's a chazaka that every yid wants to stay in Eretz Yisrael and he doesn't have to keep the second day Yom Tov. Now, just to take a little background, take a look at the next page here, page 3. You have in the front page of this sefer, in Netzer Matoi, there are some gedolim printed a warning not to be sonach on it. Very interesting to see. Reb Shmuel Vosner,
oh really?
Zichron Levracha, he writes here that Hayosh nitfas bizman alachron kuntris Netzer Matoi male v'gadush mikulos v'terim. The whole sefer is packed full of kulos. Well, that we shouldn't be Saimachan.
Yeah, there's a guy named Shol Yisraeli in Eretz Yisrael who found the liberalist movement. He's the guy who started the whole thing, where if you have if you flick a switch that causes like some kind of atom to move, it'll indirectly light electricity.
Right. So this person is similar to that because he came up with a way. If you look inside here, that he came up with a way to turn off the gas on Yom Tov.
Yeah, so show.
He held that you're not actually letting out the fire. You're just taking away the fuel from the fire, and it goes out.
Yeah, so Shaul Yisraeli, he has a whole movement where all kind of heter ways of malach on
cell
Shabbos.
phones for Shabbos.
They're called liberalist Judaism.
Kitzur, so this is the kind of sefer this is. So he says, Al kain chalila v'chalila lismoich al kuntris hanal loyla halacha v'loyla ma'isa.
Wow.
So he warned not to be soymech. Then you have Epstein.
Who is this?
The Rav Yerushalayim in the 1950s, I think. The sefer is 1957, by the way. So he says he brings down the heter to turn off the gas, and he's against it, and he says, Val kain heitev asher yatsu Yisrael lesor iser. You can't be soymech on it. Anybody who turns off the gas, harei mafsid mechal Yom Tov. I don't know who this is, but I was just reading these two because I know who they are. Okay. Now in page 4 you have the makor for this whole shita. Soita daf Testament base, starting Testament base. It says the last line: V'hu yachal lo'hishia es Yisrael. Shimshon HaGibor will start to save the Jews. So the word Yachal could also mean
hope.
That he'll be, but it could also mean Mimachal Ashvua, like it says Moichel, Lashon Moichel, that it says Lo Yachal Dvarai, right? So V'hu Yachal Lo Yishiyas Yisrael Am Rabbi Chama Rabbi Chanina Huchal. Turn the page. Fluasei Shel Avimelech Tichsiv Im Tishkor Li Lini Ulenechti. Avraham Avinu made a shvua to Avimelech, and not to harm his children or his grandchildren, and now the shvua became batal. Why? Says Dr. Rashi, top of Yom Aleph, Huchal Shvuas Shel Avimelech, Batla Lashon Lo Yachal Devaroi, Batla, the shvua was batal, Lefi Shehem Abru Al Shvua Tchila. Because the Plishtim, who were Avimelech's kids, Avimelech's people,
nation,
were over, they were over on the shvua first. So therefore, Shimshon HaGibor had a right to do the things he did. Okay, now, take a look at Shulchan Aruch Yardei Reish Lamed page 6, Sif Vav. Shnaim shnishbu lasos davar echad. Two people made a shvua to each other. V'avar echad me'am al shvua. Hasheni potter. V'ein tzarich hatara. You don't have to be mater neder. He could just go and do the thing that he swore not to do. Lefichach ish ve'isha shnishtat chuzeh lazeh. He goes on. He says if there's a shidduch between a boy and a girl, and they promised certain things, one of them broke off the shidduch, the other one could also break off the shidduch and not do what he promised. All right. And the Gra says that the Makor is this Gemara in Soita Daf Yud. And the Rebbe Kiva Eger I have it underlined because Rebbe Kiva Eger says that it doesn't apply to Goyim. So someone wanted to taina that the whole Zionist argument is a fallacy because by Goyim you don't say this halach of Shnaim Shnishbu because Rebbe Kiva Eger.
Right. Says, in fact, the Shud V'Noach there is no Chiv Goyim Kippur Shua.
So that's the answer. Rebbe Kiva Eger doesn't say that the din of Shnaim Shnishbu doesn't apply to a Goy. He says that it doesn't apply to a Goy because the Goy doesn't have to keep the Shvua B'chlal.
Right, because one of the Taryag mitzvahs is Taryag to keep a Shvua.
Right.
And a Goy even had this Shud V'Noach. In fact, there is no promise for a Goy, in fact. In fact, even a guy didn't have to undo it. There are no kinds of a guy going to his base, his court, or his, wise man.
Okay, so the thing is, Rebbe Kiva does say that since the guy doesn't have to keep his shvua, the yid doesn't have to keep his shvua because the guy is anyway potter. Mashenkin over here by the shal shvua, for some reason we have to know why, but there's the shvua that's chal on the goyim. How is it chal? Look in Simon Lamed Vav. Simon Lamed Dalad, where the Rebbe talks about how it's chal, but it's chal somehow. So since it's chal on the goyim, it's chal on the yid.
But I said before, anyhow, if a guy murders, or steals, or beats of Jews, he'll be over shvua anyhow, independent of the shvua.
Right. So that's what the Rebbe really says in Lamed Vav. He says that the shvua of Umas Oilam is not really a shvua because the guy anyway has an ister to oppress the Jews and kill the Jews. Okay. Now back to Ayin Hay. So he says. This Zionist argument is nothing. Why is it nothing? The oaths don't depend on one another. That Hashem didn't make us swear for the sake of the goyim. I mean, if this whole thing would have been like the agreement made between the wife and the husband that they're going to do this for each other, okay, if one breaks it, the other one could break it. But
Kodesh and Umos have no Hebrew to one another.
But here, the reason why there's a Shalosh Shvuos on the Jews is not because for the good of the nations that they should have.
Of course, why would Hashem care? They're not even His people nation. Hashem care about us.
So
just to support what everybody's saying.
Ela l'toiva seinu, it's for our own good.
Which proves what I'm saying.
That His wisdom saw, Hashem saw in His wisdom as Goydel hara shal dechikas haketz, how bad it is to push the end before it's time lifnei zmanoi, and therefore that's why He made the shvuos, not because of the good of the nations. Now, just to back up here, there are 3 shvuos. There's 2 on the Jews, 1 on the nations, and there's another one in the other 3 there, they mentioned there, that's Techikas HaKetz. So let's take those 3 that are on the Yidden and take them apart and see which one is B'chal Havamim to say that it's Tali and Zebazet. The shvuos Sheloi Yalu B'choyma, to go up to Eretz Yisrael, right? So you have a machlokes that we discussed already between the Avnei Nezer and the Yefei Soyar and others, Rav Yonis Leibshitz, whether that shvuah is even with permission from the nations or without permission. So if the shvuah is even with permission, that there's an isser, no matter what, even if they say it's allowed to go and they let us go to Eretz Yisrael, you're still not allowed to go. Obviously, that shvuah was not made for their benefit. So that's pasha. That's not even what to talk about. The shayla is only according to the Avnei Nezer, who says that it's with their permission. Maybe then there was a havamina to say that it should be tali in them. But of course, maybe not. Maybe the pshat is even the Avnei Nezer in the end is moeder. In a couple of simanim later, we saw the Avnei Nezer says that the Gemara says that aliyah b'chayma even with reshus is called chayma, and Yuma Tes, and he says therefore aliyah b'chayma b'reshus is still chayma. So what did the Gemara mean to say? What did Rashi mean biyad chazaka? He meant that if the nations give it permission for all the Jews to come, it's a pekida and it's the geula. Mashen came when they give permission for, let's say, 100,000 Jews or 200,000, then that's not a pekida, and it's still chayma, so it's aser. So even the Avnei Nezer is moided that there are ifanim. There are cases when it will be aser, even with permission. So at Bazai, you see clear, even the Avnei Nezer agrees that the shvuah is not the toivas umos. Okay, next, the shvuah of the Dechikas HaKetz, the Rebbe just said that obviously that's pushing for the end of Galus. That's nothing to do with the nations. That's talking about messianic movements like the Rambam talked about in Yigas Teiman, Bar Koziva, things that are nothing to do with the umos. The only shvuah that might have something to do with the umais is the third one, that shelo yimredu b'umais. So there's taka a tzad to say that they're tali zebazeh, and they are l'toivas umais. Hashem made a shvuah on us not to bother them, and on them not to bother us. And take a look in this page 7 of the sheets. It's called the Zera Shimshon. It's a sefer written about 300 years ago.
By who?
Reb Chaim Shimshon Nachmani, I believe is his name. And in this paragraph that I've highlighted, he's going on the Megillas Esther, on the pasuk that says, "Vayoyim asher sibru oivei haYehudim lishloi bohem v'nafoichu asher yitzhltu haYehudim hema b'sarneim." That the Megillah makes a point of saying that on the very same day that the Goyim wanted to kill the Yidden killed the Goyim. Okay, so Zak the Zera Shimshon, Hutzrach loy v'nafoichu. The reason why the Megillah had to speak out v'nafoichu. If not for that, the Yidden would not have had a right to kill the Jews, the Goyim. But now that they tried to kill them, then it became mutter for the Jews. The Amrina Perak Yud Gimel, the Ksuvas, Gimel Shvuas Halal Lama, and he quotes the whole thing, and then he says Shnaim Shenishbu, and then I'm just skimming down. He says. V'af kan, here also, Mikri, it's called, She'Yisrael v'humais nishbu zelazeh, v'hashta she'avru humais al shvu asam, now that the Goyim were over on their shvu, bikshu lahashmin is Yisrael, she'en locha shibud yoyster midai godam mizeh. That's the biggest type of transgression of the oath, of going overboard, because they're killing them. Goyim aren't allowed to kill. So, Gam habeis potter. The other side is also potter. Ve'in sar chatara. Kloimer she'Yisrael mutarim lahargam. Ve'in b'chlal shvuah shelo yimredu b'umais ha'olam. Those are the magic words. The last 3 words. The shvuah shelo yimredu b'umais ha'olam becomes mutter, not the other 2 shvuahs. So some
now the shvuah of going up to Eretz Yisrael.
Right, exactly. And then you don't find that the Yidden in Achashverosh's time.
Of course, they didn't want to Eretz Yisrael. In fact, Mordechai never said, "Let's all run to Eretz Yisrael. We save from Haman."
Right.
That you don't find.
So this Zionist raya from the Zera Shimshon is not a raya. Now,
of course.
Also,
no, but to argue that we could in Eretz Yisrael, the guy are in Eretz Yisrael.
All right, but Lagabi going to Eretz Yisrael, Lagabi to Chikis, you can't make the argument.
Of course.
Now, the other thing about this is that there's a Shimshon, you see Klor, what happened with Haman? Haman made Xera to kill the Yidden. And Achashverosh signed on it and whatever, okay? Now, they had to wait for the Svara of Shnaim Shenishpu to be mutter to kill back. What happened to Pikuch Nefesh? Why can't you fight back? Obviously, he holds that's not a hector of the Shalosh Shuas.
Right.
So it's interesting that this source that the Sionim bring up, and permission is also not enough. Permission from the
king.
No, forget. They got permission from the king to fight back, but apparently that wasn't enough for him either. It had to be that the Shnaim Shenishpu. So you see, Klor, an interesting thing. This raya that they bring down is really a raya against them because two things. The king had to king gave permission.
They have their own state now, which
they didn't have their own state, but the king. No,
but now that they have their own state, so it can't be compared. They're not under any king.
Okay, but the point is that the king gave them permission, so they always say, permission from the nations, the United Nations, whatever. So, but here the permission from the king obviously wasn't enough.
To fight, right.
They had to have nishpu, shnaim shenishpu, and secondly, pikuch nefesh wasn't enough.
Right.
The only thing
Mordechai said, let's fight back, pikuch nefesh, right?
Kitzer, that's the Zer Shimshon. Okay, now let's go back there. The ha'umais me'olam avru al shvua. The nations of the world always were over on their shvua. Ula not only about the Holocaust, it happened always. We're going to bring rise to this soon. Ula asid yin koyim kodesh baruch hu mehem. In the future, Hashem will take His revenge on them. K'moy sheyesh al zeh kama psukim. There are many psukim that talk about the revenge. Dam avad of yikoyim. My mori chazal. Aval ein lo zeh shaychus im shvua seinu. This has nothing to do with our shvua. Just take a look at page 8. It's Rav Shimshon Fol Hirsch in his Sefer Chorev, and he's talking about the Shalosh Shvuos. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
What Sefer is this?
Chorev.
Chorev?
Yeah, that's the name. It's written in the 1830s,
Chorev,
long before Zionism. But he wrote about the Shalosh Shvuos, and then he wrote here, the Jewish people's fulfillment of the first two oaths is confirmed in the pages of history. And as to the third oath, let the nations judge themselves.
So he himself said.
So obviously he's saying they were over on it. He's saying, but that's nothing to do with us. We fulfilled ours.
Right.
Okay.
They didn't swear between each other. Hashem made each one swear separately.
Exactly.
They didn't swear between one another.
Right.
Not even an argument. Also.
Okay. Now, the gam b'shas hachurban over malchus roimi. Now he's going to bring 6 rayas here that the goyim were over on their shvu already, and we still didn't change the halach of the shalosh shvuos. So this is raya number 1. The gam b'shas hachurban over malchus roimi al shvu, that the Roman Empire, during the destruction of the Second Temple, they were over on their shvu. Kemavur b'medrash eicha b'psicha, as it says in the medrash eicha, and take a look, page 9. Medrash Eicha in the Psicha, it says, Reb Pinchas b'shem Reb Hoshia Amar Arba Meos Ushmoinim Bate Knesiyas Hayi B'Yerushalayim. There were 480 shuls in Yerushalayim, Chutz mi Beis Hamikdash, outside the Beis Hamikdash. Minayin, how do we know? Malayasi B'Gematri Hachi Have. Malayasi adds up to 480. Really, it's 481. I checked it, but maybe he's not counting the aleph. So he says, V'chol Achas V'Achas Hayallah Beis Sefer L'Mikra U'Beis Talmud L'Mishnah. They each had a cheder for little kids and a Beis Talmud for older kids, for Mishnah. V'Kulon Ola Aspasianus V'Hech Rivan. Aspasianus, the Roman general, destroyed them all. Okay? So that's an example of the Romans being over on the shur. Okay? So V'Afal Pichen, and still, Mevur Sham Acharkach, we see afterwards B'Medrash and the Medrash Eicha, Shenasu Doirei, Shenenshu Doirei Shal Ben Koziva, that the generation of false Mashiach Ben Koziva were punished Kol Kach severely Bishvil Shahavu Al Shvua, because they were over on the Shvua, and that's in the Medrash Vayter and Eicha, not here in the Psicha, but it's later on in the pasuk Bila Hashem V'Lo Yichamal in Perek Beis. That's one of the whole places where the Medrash brings down the whole story of Bar Kochba. Okay. Number 2. V'Arambam b'Yigeres Teiman. The Rambam talks about the history of his time in Yigeres Teiman. Shehisir oistam shaloi la'avor al shvua, and he warns the Jews of Yemen not to transgress the oath. B'tchikas haketz, cost of Sham b'oiso Yigeres. But he writes in the very same place, the very same letter, oid tam. Another reason not to start up with this false movement. Shehem tachas malchus harisha. that the Jews in Yemen were under a very bad government, she'oisim tsaros redifus, that they persecuted the Jews, v'sina, they had lots of hatred to the Jews, u'milchamas al Yisrael, yoister mikol ha'umais, more milchamas than any of the other nations. It says, af sha'an v'soivli mehem hakol, even though we tolerate it, still, and they still continue persecuting us. So when we call shekanim no'oyer aleinu v'nikra malchus b'dvarim b'telim b'sheker, kol shekain, if you make a messianic movement and you get up and you say these things, that's going to be a hisakana atzuma chas v'shalom. It's going to be even bigger danger of persecution. Yun sham. Okay. So you see what you see this? The Rambam saying that even though they were anti-Semitic and they persecuted the Jews too much, still he says not to do it. Okay. Yeah, they're oppressing us. They transgressed the oath, the afal pichein, and still okay? So the Jews are not allowed to violate theirs. Next, number 3. The Egyptians were punished for making Jews into slaves. When they went overboard in making their lives bitter, more than the Gzeir. Hashem was Geyser v'gam that avodim ger yezarach beretz lo'elahem v'avodim v'inu oisam, but the Mitzrayim did too much, so that's why they were punished. K'mashikos of a Ravid, like the Ravid Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam says there the famous question that if Hashem was Geyser to do the slavery, then why did the Egyptians get punished? The Rambam says because anybody could have done it. They didn't have to be the ones to do it. And the Ravid argues, the Ravid says that the reason is because they went overboard. So he's bringing the right now from the Ravid Shita. I was angry a little. But they went overboard and they did too much. They helped out more than they were supposed to. So despite this, the Bnei Ephraim were punished because they transgressed the oath. Even when Moshe and Aaron arrived in Mitzrayim to redeem the Jews, the Jews weren't allowed to believe Moshe and Aaron, that they only believed them after they heard Pekoi Pekadati. Moshe said these words that were the simon, so then they believed them. But otherwise, just on to make an uprising, no. Like I brought before, and that's in Simon Memches, talking about Moshe and Aaron saying Pekoi Pekadati. We don't have to bring any more rice because ki hadavar pashut the lav ha b'ha talya. It's obvious that the two shvuos are not dependent on each other. Ve'ein bazeh el lahasis ulahadiach. This is only a means of convincing people to become Zionists and lavar al Torah Kedosha. Okay?
And do whatever they want to.
And do whatever they want to, besides being Zionists.
Well, the argument commonly is you're allowed to halachically defend yourself, a guy attacking you. That's the common argument.
Oh, hashkim hargoy.
Yeah. So
that's a different one. That's nothing to do with Zionism, and that's taka true. If you're on a personal level, hashkim hargoy is taka the right eitzah. You're personally walking in a dark alley and someone attacks you. Yeah. But the Jewish people as a whole during Galus are not supposed to do hashkim hargoy because the pshat is that that's not the best way. That's not the best advice for Yidden. In the Chanami, if it would be the best advice, it would be the safest way to defend yourself. We would do it. But Hashem is being megal to us that the ways of the nations, the manner in which they lead their lives and they fight wars, preemptive strikes and these kind of things, are not going to save the Jews.
Right, because you know what?
It's not the safest way.
Ever since the statement, they no matter how much Arabs they kill, they keep coming back.
Right.
It's true. They shoot the Arab. They blow them up. They both, we beat you. They use their bombs and blew menorahs out of them, but the Arabs still come back.
Like the Sfardeim.
Yeah.
But the Chavetz Chaim says in Al Torah, in Parashas Devarim, that as long as the Yidden kept to their ways, they were pretty safe in Galus. Things happened from time to time, but they were saved. But now that the Yidden grabbed on to the ways of the Goyim, they started doing what Zionists are doing, then things have gotten worse and worse. So basically Hashem has begalit to us the way that we have to behave in Galus. So as a whole, to do hashkem l'harga is not the safest advice. Okay, the reason why at the end of this paragraph he ends off with a kind of like an ending lashon. It sounds like the end of the simon almost. He says, okay, we don't have to bring any more rayas. It's not tali haba talya. And you look the simon goes on for another page, because in the first edition of Vayom Moshe, this was the end of the section about Tliyas HaShavuos, and this whole next two paragraphs were not here. Okay, but then he added on in the second edition these paragraphs. So 3 more proofs from history and 1 more proof from the Maharal. Okay, take a look. Gam lashon Maharal zal bar milelu. That the words of the Maharal are very clear. Shekasav she'af im roitzim chas v'shalom loham yisoisam beinuim kashim. Even if the goyim want to kill us with torture, lo yiyu yoitzim. We're not allowed to go out of Galus. V'chein apirish eitzel kol shvu mishvuas halalu. That's the pshat in all the shvuas. Now take a look in Siman Chaf, and I explained over there what exactly these words are supposed to mean. But anyway, the Maharal says that Inuim Kashim, right? Even if they do Inuim Kashim, even if they do persecution and torture against us, we're still not allowed to go out of the Galus. Now, that's obviously they were over on their shul first. So how come we're allowed to be over on? How come we're not allowed to be over on ours? Right? If they're threatening us with torture, Rahman al-Itzvan, bevadai oivrim al shvua. That's their shvua, right? V'afal pichein kasav Maharal de Yisrael adayin hu b'yahag v'al yavor. Even so, the Yidden are not allowed to be over it, and Maharal goes even further and says that it's yahag v'al yavor. Lispo chas v'shalom. They have to tolerate the whatever comes their way. Mei umais harigos b'inuyim kashim Rahman al-Itzvan kedei shaloi lavor alei lo shvuas. Okay, so you see from the Maharal that it's not dependent. Okay, Gam Bavel Harashah, even the wicked kingdom of Bavel was also over on their shvua. He says, Asu achazarias noirais, they did cruelty, b'shas ha'churban, v'hargu b'zadun chasidei elyon, the lashon of the Nachem tefillah, right?
Even Yirmiyahu told Eliyahu, don't fight Nebuchadnezzar. That make peace. It's not if you want to not to destroy, just make Nebuchadnezzar. Exactly. But right. Nebuchadnezzar was such a Rasha that even Gehem didn't want to take him. Yeah. So we see very clear that if a Russia wants to wipe out Klal Yisrael, even like Nebuchadnezzar didn't want to take, making people the Russia is the only answer. Because look, Nebuchadnezzar, Chazal tell us, did shikva zak with those who he captured.
Okay.
So we see from very clearly that
he was
you can't compare the Arabs to Nebuchadnezzar.
So Chazal tiknu bracha b'shem malchus. But Bavel was so bad that Chazal made a bracha. They enacted to make a bracha. That when you see the ruins of Babylonia, you go to Iraq today and you see the ruins.
But we don't even know that ruins even is. We don't even know exactly where it is.
It could be. So
because Bavel back then was very small.
That we have to make a bracha on it. There was a Rasha. They were Rishaim. And Gam Acherkach Zarkuch Chanani Mishal Vazari L'Soich Kivshno Eish. Another rishis that they did was.
What's the bracha? Shehekriv Bavel?
Baruch Shehekriv Bavel Harashah. That Hashem destroyed the wicked Bavel. Okay, and they threw the Chanani Mishal Vazari into the fire. The Oid Kama Rishis Noirois. They did a lot of other bad things. Adein Mispar.
Where's the Germany means? Because I don't think any of who are attacking make a bracha if you see any of Germany's ruins, from World War II.
All right. Well, Chazal aren't around now. Maybe if they were around, they would make such a thing. Kitzer, the avru al shvua, and they were over on the shvua. The afal pichein, and still we see the Ma'adi Omer Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda said in the Gemara, "Kol ha'olam miBavel Eretz Yisrael, over ba'asei." Yeah.
The question is, why did they even live in Bavel then? Why was Bavel such a bad place for?
Well, because it was a different Bavel. The time of Chazal was a different Bavel.
Oh, because the Bavel was conquered already by Persia.
And then came the Romans, and then came
Greece, then came Rome,
and then came the Sassanid Persians. The Persians that were in the time of Chazal were different Persians.
Yeah, the medieval Persians.
Not before the medieval. It's called the Sassanid Empire.
I see.
So they're different people.
Right.
Okay.
Like Rav told me in our time, it's not an affair to buy your own go to Germany to hear different Germans. They're still not the Nazis of the past, even in our time.
And if they were the Nazis?
I don't know, but for sure there's no problem in our time. That's what I'm just saying.
Okay, so he says, "B'mastik b'gemara," and the Gemara comes out that what Rav Yehuda meant by Oiver Basei was shehu Oiver, shehu b'shvil hashvua, that it was because of the shvua. The Tarach Yashev divrei Reb Zera, and then the Gemara goes on at length to answer up Reb Zera. How's he going to deal with the shvua? Shvua kai rak shelo yalu b'choyma. It's not going on every individual. It's just going on the nation as a whole. V'haloi b'pshitas hava matzil meimer, that the Gemara could have answered much more simple. It could have said the kivan shebavel harashah over al shvua that since Babel did what they did, Paturim Gam Hema. The Jews are parted from theirs. Right? If we say this argument that it's totally Zebazeh, we could have said it then too. You see from this that the Gemara has no tzad to say this. The Shvua is still around today. No matter what, whatever. In other words, whichever shita you hold like, either it's whichever shita you hold like Rav Yehuda or Rav Zera, either one, it's asked to be over on the Shua. She'aster lalo is there Yisrael kepluktis Rav Yehuda Rav Zera. According to the machlokes, whichever one you hold like, it's asked to go up. You see that it's not dependent on their oaths. Okay, now we get to raya number 5. Gam b'targum Yonason shapir shvua ha'achroina al melech HaMashiach. Targum Yonason says that the last oath in Shir Shirim class is going on Melech HaMashiach. Shaloi limroid b'chayaloisav de Gog u'Magog, not to rebel against Gog u'Magog. Af ki b'vaday ha'chayolos ho'elu oiv mal shvua. Gog u'Magog is going to do terrible things. They're going to be over on the shvua. It's still in place. Okay, and raya number 6, the last raya, the Hakadosh Rav Avraham Galanti Zecher Tzadik B'Kodesh L'Bracha. He was a rav in Italy, in Rome actually, in the 1500s.
So early Achron.
Early Achron, and either he was a child at the time of the Inquisition, or maybe his parents went through it, but he knew about the Inquisition, and this is going to be negated to that, what we're saying now.
Well, I guess the news had its way of spreading even back then.
Right. No, a lot of the Yidden from Spain came to Italy right after the Inquisition.
But then look, even back then it had its way of spreading.
So he says, Asher Achida b'Shem HaGdoil Mois Aleph Kasav Alav Hu HaKadosh Muflag B'Kedusha. Saying this Rabbi Avraham Galanti wasn't a Pasha person, he was the Chida calls him a holy man. Kakastu b'Sefer Shivchei Ha'ari. V'hu haya migdoilei talmidei haramak. He was one of the greatest talmidim of the Moshe Cordovero.
But did Ramak live there to Yisrael, or he moved there to Yisrael?
It could be the Rebbe Avraham Galanti moved there to Yisrael.
Oh, he did?
I'm not sure.
The Ramak?
The Ramak was in Eretz Yisrael. The Ramak was in Tzfas.
Oh, sorry, right.
He lived around the Arizal's time in Tzfas.
Alright, so he probably moved there to Yisrael then. Right.
Yuyin Sham Sheherich B'Shvachlein. See, the Chidah goes on at length about how great this Rebbe Avraham Galanti was. So Hevi B'Sifra is Chus Avos. He brings down in his sefer his Chus Avos, Masechta Avos, his commentary on Pirkei Avos. Okay, so Hevi B'Sifra is Chus Avos, Masechta Avos, Ma'aser Rav. He brings down a story. So this is not just a question of what happened in history. This is a story where they actually paskin the halacha based on the question of the Shalosh Shvuos. Take a look at this Maisa. V'zel Shoyna HaKadosh Al Mishnah de Al Tisvadel Reshus. He's writing on the Mishnah that it says don't get involved with the government. So he says the Reshus doesn't mean the government. Ein Sham. Anyway, he says Kloimar lehashpia hashbois kenegdon. Don't get involved with these kabbalistic things to make shvuos against the nations of the world when they are persecuting the Yidden. The limroid bumois, or to physically fight against them. What sefer is this? What sefer is this in? Zechus Avos. It's a Pirush on Pirkei Avos by Rabbi Avraham Galanti.
All right, yeah. In continuation.
So, K'moy Shehelu, he says, don't fight milchamas against the goyim, like Shehelu alev anshe Portugal, like it occurred to the Jews of Portugal to do. They had this plan to do. V'ratu laharim roish lahargam. It was talking about during the Portuguese Inquisition. A few years after the Spanish Inquisition, the Portuguese also decided to make an Inquisition and force the Yidden out of Portugal or make them convert. Really,
that's when Portuguese became Christianized.
No, they were Christians before.
Muslim, no, Portuguese were Muslim before, seriously.
Anyway, so they wanted to force the Yidden out, or they actually didn't even give them a choice for some of them. They grabbed their children away and they baptized them. It was a really difficult time. So the Yidden had a plan there. They wanted to fight them and take over the country. There was one old Yid.
What was his name?
It doesn't say. And he said with Hashem, and he asked Hashem the question, what to do. And Hashem answered him, Maybe the end of it is Techpot, I'm not sure. Don't arouse the end of Galus before the time. And the Rebbe Ram Galanti adds on, like Chazal explained, Gimel Shvuah Sheishbiya Kodesh Baruch Hu Es Yisrael Achashul Yimrudu BaKodesh Baruch Hu. One of the Shvuahs is not to rebel against HaKodesh Baruch Hu. That's not really the lashon of the Gemara, but he says this. Now, the V'zehu Shenemar, that's what it says. V'altis Vadal Rishus. Don't start up with the government, or maybe with the doesn't mean the government, it means something to do with these Kabbalah, Hashbois, Tahainu Rishus Harabim, Lilis Uben Zuga Samach Mem. These are names of Shadim, and the Samach Mem is the Satan, the Ayin Sarim, and the 70 angels of the nations. Ad Kan Lashon HaKadosh. So basically he's saying that it's usher to take over the country, even though they're persecuting us, and even they're converting and shmading the Yidden. Now, V'hinei Anshe Portugal astu Gzeir Shmad. The Goyim of Portugal were doing a Gzeir Shmad, they were doing an Inquisition. V'hargu b'misas meshunas. Rachmana litzlan, they were torturing the Jews to death. Kanoida, as we know, that's the history. V'hinei avru al shvuah be'oifen noira. They were really over on their shvuah. V'haya zebi mei galis Spania. That was during the Spanish Gaulis, a little bit after that actually. Ukafia nire me'oisa amaisa shebesefer anal. It looks like from the story that the Rabbi Ram Galanti tells, Shahaya b'koichem lahargum, that the Jews had the power, they had the weapon, the training, whatever, they had the ability to do it, physically speaking. Lahargum lilkol emlucha, to take it over. Ulehinatzam mikol eila, v'afal pichein heishivu min hashemayim, and still Hashem answered them, Shaloi lavar lashvuah. Okay? Upela be'enai haloshen. Now, it's remarkable the language that he says, Shekasav v'ashvuah shaloi yimrudu ba'kodesh baruch hu. Not to rebel against Hashem. We never find that the shvuah is called that, rebelling against Hashem. But that he holds, like we've been saying all along, that these shvuahs are not for the toivas ha'umais, they're not for the good of the nations, and if you rebel against them, you're rebelling against Hashem. Later on, Yisparah Bazam going to explain this more. In the next couple of simanim, we're going to talk about more. But we see here, without a doubt, that the shvuahs don't depend on the shvuahs of the nations. Okay, a few quick Mar Mekoimis here. I don't know how much I'm going to have time to squeeze in here, but take a look at page 10. This is the Kovet Marmorim from Rebbe Chanan Wasserman, and he's quoting the Chafetz Chaim. And the reason I'm bringing this is because here you see that the Portuguese Inquisition was going on. They were trying to shmad the Yidden, right? And the Yidden were not allowed.
Rebbe Chanan Wasserman's book was Marmorim?
Kovetz Marmorim, Rebbe Chanan Wasserman.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to convert the Jews to Christianity, and still the Jews were not allowed to rebel back against them. Let me just read this, okay? Rebbe Chanan here brings b'shem the Chafetz Chaim that there are two types of gzeiros. There are gzeiros on the neshama, gzeiros, spiritual gzeiros against keeping Yiddishkeit, and then there are gzeiros against the goof, like Haman's gzeir. So he says, when the gzeir is against the goof, then that's a Maisa Hashem, to make us do tshuva. But if the gzeir is against Yiddishkeit, not to keep the Torah, then it's the Satan's gzeir. It's not Hashem's gzeir. What does that mean? It means Hashem brings physical danger in order to get us to do tshuva. That's what Haman was for. Haman came to make us do tshuva. But a spiritual danger is not for that. It's to make us fight back and try to keep the Torah anyway.
Which the Arab do? The Arab want to kill the body and nothing to
it's keep the body. Okay, good, that's true. But I'm just bringing something here.
Which so the Rai of Chashmonaim is not even a Rai because the Yavan wanted to kill the Neshama. Yavan says specifically
so that's the word that the Chashmonaim had a right. He says here in the Hemshech that the Chashmonaim, that's why they fought back during Hanukkah. That's why it was a physical fight, because the Gzeir was a spiritual Gzeir.
Because Kohanim have no right, no share in Malchus anyhow. So you can't possibly say one, because Kohanim have no share in Malchus.
In order to weaken the Satan's power, when he makes a spiritual Gzeir, it's required. The Jews should go and fight and risk their lives. In real Muhammad. He says there are different countries here where you have different Gzeris.
Which are Soviet Union?
Listen. The Reds, the Communists in the Soviet Union.
Really? They're called the Domim?
The Domim, yeah. He didn't want to write it beferish because maybe he was afraid of the censor of the press, whatever. But anyway, he says, Gzeris to Adoimim hein Maisa Satan. That's the Maisa Satan, because they're not killing Yidden, they're just making them stop keeping the Torah.
I even heard Revelation Ginsburg say that Stalin was worried because Stalin wanted to make Jews deny there is a God.
So l'rachek Yisrael mi'avin shebashamayim uva medina ha'acheres, but the other country, Germany, I guess, he lehipuch l'karev bizraya es rechoikim. Uva medina ha'acheres hipuch l'karev bizraya es rechoikim. The means the punishments, the threat of the Germans is to wake us up and make us do tshuva, not to make us do away from the Torah. V'shamati mipek kadosh bal Chavetz Chaim zal b'zeh lashon. Chavetz Chaim said, Yidden haben farzen. Yidden missed their opportunity. B'shas haben sich angeheven the gzeres from the sexes when the Jewish communists started making their gzeres and they started persecuting Judaism because the Jews were in charge. The communist Jews were in charge.
Trotsky.
They were in charge of the persecution of Yiddishkeit. So haben Yidden gedarft a roisgein gegen ze auf Milchama b'mesiras nefesh. Chavetz Chaim says they should have gone out and fought them. They should have taken guns and fought them. MS is wollten taka asach Yidden nera geworden. Asach Jews would have been killed in this fight. Aber der koich von Satan wollte geworden abgeschwacht. The koich of the Satan would be weaker after that. B'shas es hat sich aber nicht gefunden, wer soll sich meister nefesh sein. There was no Jews who were willing to do it. The Milchama sein the Yevsexes geworden starker. That's why the Yevsexes got stronger. Kitzer. So what I want to show is l'chayr this Chavetz Chaim is against what the Rav Galanti said. The Rav Galanti said even during the Inquisition you're not allowed to fight back, and the Chavetz Chaim is saying no. If the Russians come with gzeres, not to keep the Torah, kill them.
What's the answer?
So there's two answers. Either you could say that it was a Hirah Shah. In other words, this Rav Galanti is just on the spur of the moment. They asked the Shiloh to Hashem. Hashem answered them, don't do it. But in general, the answer would be yes, do it. Just in this case, the answer was not to do it.
Maybe the Porsche just wanted to kill Jews just like that because they were a Jew.
But it's not true. They didn't want to kill them. Right. They were willing to let them baptize and become. Right. Now, the second answer could be that here they wanted to take over Portugal. That was the issue. The Chavetz Chaim didn't say take over Russia. He just said go
the communists.
Take some guns and shoot some communists. That's all. He didn't say take over the. They were holding in the middle of Siman Ayin Hey, and there were some Maramakoimis that we didn't finish the last time, so we're going to finish them up now. We finished reading that the Rebbe brought 6 rayas from history, that even though the Goyim were over on their Shvuah, still we're not allowed to be over on ours. And now, I want to just look at something in the Sefer HaTkufa HaGadola by Rabbi Menachem Kasher, who people call Mendel Treif. So, the Rebbe in the Hakdama, the Vayal Moshe says, "V'yodea ani ki yoyru amorim chitzim ubli strois." That I know that people are going to shoot arrows and catapult stones. Adein shir. I'll call advarim shekasafti. They're going to shoot everything.
So that was ready for it already.
Yeah, he was ready. Ki kain derech hatziyonim me'olim. That's what the tziyonim always do. They always try to slug up everything. U'v'yoyser hadasim manigroim achreim. Especially the religious Zionists. Lishpoich booz v'kolon chirufin v'gidufim. They humiliate and insult anybody who doesn't go with them. And threats, he says, v'yumim noroim, ushkarim, uksavim, al kol mi she'eno nimshach achar de'aseim, ve'eno halach b'kvaseim. That's in the Hakdama.
I've been told by some Zionists, I'm going to drug you, and you'll be there to show, and you'll see what you love it there. That's some Zionists tell me, we're going to drug you.
The kids are so this Nevuah was Niskaim when Kasher wrote this Sefer Tkufa Gdoila, which was in the 60s, late 60s. And here's what he writes. In the footnote, he brings down the Rebbe's...
That's why Yosef uses him as a raya that you're allowed to say hello.
Yeah. So in the footnote here on page, it's in 12 of the Maramakoyim sheets, and it's page 208 in the Sefer. He brings down the whole shita of the Rebbe that basically there's Yesh Apikorsim Sha'amru, beginning of this simon. There's these Apikorsim who say that since the Goyim were over on theirs, we're allowed to be over on ours. And then he says like this. He says the Marshak Mi Brodi Zal Kosev in the Pirush HaMahagada, the Ma'aseh Yodei Yoitzer. He says Zaka Yoitzer Midai Oser L'das Rashi, that davening too much for the Gula is Oser according to Rashi. Zal Machmas Hashua El Kivan Sham Mitzrayim Over El Shvu Asam. Since the Mitzrayim oppressed the Jews too much, right? So Hut Gam Lahem Lizoy Kol Kach L'Hashem Yisborach.
Not using forceful power.
Right. So now he says Uve'emes. So he says that the Rebbe noticed this Marshak, and it's later on in the Siman Ayin Tes he brings it down, and he says Uve'emes Loy Kost of Zeh Marshak. The Rebbe says the Marshak, the Shlomo Kluger, didn't write this Ela B'derech Drush, G'derech Hadar Shanim HaMechadshim Pirushim Shanim B'derech Agada. Af v'meinam la'alacha klal. He says it's not really a halacha, it's only agadata, so you can't learn up from it. That's the whole thing that Kasha quotes from the Rebbe. He doesn't quote the rest of what he says. And then he says, Tema shaloi mocha kamilim b'yeshach b'korsim l'chvoida shal marshak zatzal. He says, how could the Rebbe have said, Yeshach b'korsim, and then when he got the Siman 9 test, he saw the marshak, and then he said, okay, but leave that b'korsim insult as it is. How could he insult the marshak like that? And then he says, "Umash shekos v'tar it's divrei marshak." That the Rebbe says that it's divrei agadata. Oisem advarim mamash yesh loim aroiv dvarav b'sifroi. Most of the things in Vayol Moshe are also agadata. This is what Kasha says. So now, take a look. Turn to Siman.
Like the Kasha of any Apikosh's views, like Nelson Tzvi Friedman did, like he patskin like the Apikosh's halachas.
Yeah, well, he wasn't a posek. He was a writer. He wrote Sfarim, but he brings down all these kind of terutzim. The Shnaim Shnishbu he brings down. Now look. In Siman Ayin Tes, just turn a little ahead.
We're ahead.
We're in Ayin Hey now, but turn 2 pages to Siman Ayin Tes. A very long Siman.
Yeah.
But it's on Sadik Ches, page Sadik Ches, on the right side. The Dibur Maskal V'Ka'es Heruni. Okay, and he says, "Ka'es Heruni b'Sefer Ma'aseh Yidei Yoitzer." They showed me that it says in this Sefer Ma'aseh Yidei Yoitzer Al Agada Me'agoyim Marshak Mibrodi. Zal the Piska Ve'eslach Katzenu Zeh Adchak Shekosav Drushim Al Agada Kedarkoi Uve'emtza Drush Ishtamish B'Zeh Shaloi Hayu Yisrael Ruim Legula Oz Elamach Mezah Kosam Lashem Nigalu Koyim Azman. That really, it wasn't the time to get out of Egypt. It was only 210 years. But why did they get out? Because they davened for it. They cried out to Hashem. Ve'heir D'Zeh Havi Zaka Yoisim Midai. So the Marshak asks, this is against the Shvuah to daven too much. Since the Mitzrayim were over in theirs, so they were also allowed to. Okay, so he goes on and he says like this. Here's the quote that Kasha has, down like about 7-8 lines from the bottom of the page. All right? But then, look at the next words. Even this drush that the Marshak says is only only about the oath about davening. Why? You could say this pshat by davening, as the Rebbe is marich earlier, Lufi Perushi.
Too much. But if you know your tefillah would bring you, like over here in his sons,
if you know it's
then you're not going to want to do it.
All right, but here they
didn't know, right? They had no idea that their tefillah would bring it.
Okay, that's an interesting teretz. I didn't think of that. That's a good teretz.
They were not in any way expecting that the tefillah.
They weren't expecting it to work. Okay, good word. Yeah, I hear. But he doesn't say that. He says shagam tefillah kazu aser avalasois ezu puula kolduhu loy ala al dash shum adam me'olam. To do a puula is. Nobody was ever matir that. Like the
Shevet of Ephraim, they're the ones who tried to escape Mitzrayim, and they were wrong for it.
They were wrong, but no postic ever said that was right. Yeah,
right.
Berais that sumas in Chazal or Rishonim, but less man the polig. Gam beoisei adrush hanal shekasev tam heter tefila b'shvil shavra mitzvah al shvuasam hevi shenen shu b'nei Ephraim. Right, that's what you just said. That he brings down the Bnei Ephraim were punished for this. Yan shavru al shvua. Af shekvar tzavach akasid vayimara weschayehem. Even though before the Bnei Ephraim went out, there was already a oppression. Right, there was already vayimara weschayehem. The zevade havi hishtab d'sioyster midai ukvar over al shvua. But still, the Bnei Ephraim were over. All right, so the point is that even the Marshak, in the middle of when he says this thing, he still agrees that there was no heter for the Bnei Ephraim to do what they did just because the Mitzrayim were over on their shvua. You see how he's selectively quoting from the words of the Rebbe. Then he goes on in the same shtickle here in the Kufa G'doyla, page 12. He goes on. He says that the Reb Hillel Mikolamaya also said the same thing, and he quotes it. Okay,
where is he saying?
And he said it in a letter to somebody, or maybe somebody heard from it from him. He brings down somebody who heard from his uncle. He says. V'shamati midoidi hagon hakadosh mikolamaya liyois ki adin b'shulchan aruch yardeh shnayim shnishbu zeh lezeh v'yav rechel al shvuasa imuter gam lasheni v'im hamelech v'hamemshala oiver mal shvua v'roit v'mes Yisrael u'meshavdim imoim azai rasha Yisrael gam ken laber al shvuasam. Okay, so this is his quote. So he says, you see that it's mutter. But what's the real quote? Take a look inside in Avkas Roichel. This is the sefer from Rav Yirmiyahu Cohen with Shilas Tshuvas on Yoneh Emuna and Hashkafa. So he says, Al Sheilascha Ashniya, page 13. Im ko'es nishtana hazman umutter lidchokes haketz. Is it allowed now to daven too much for the kates? Kidvarecha kenhu. Yes, it is. He says, Shala'es ata nishtana hazman. Now it's different. V'loy levad shemutter laharbos tachanunim. Not only it's allowed to, avur geula el gam mitzvah hu lasos kain. It's a mitzvah to do it. All right. So now he says, Mishum echad me'ashvur sheishbiach kodesh baruch hu Yisrael hu shlo yidchuku es hakeit b'harbos tatnunim aval yishbiach os gam l'umas ha'olam shlo yishtav Yisrael b'ferch u'b'chlal zeh v'gam yoyster b'zehu shlo yachrichu esam. Okay, so he says that shvur on the umas ha'olam is not to oppress us physically, but it's included in that an even bigger transgression on their part if they prevent us from keeping the Torah. Take a look. Not to force them to abandon the Torah, and not to convince them with soft words. Okay, so he goes on to say, it's interesting. You read the whole thing. He says that the guy made a law in Europe that to be a Rav you have to have a PhD. He says, "L'kabel titel doctor."
Was that because of the Enlightenment?
The maskilim convinced the government to do this.
Well, by you can't be a rabbi unless you have a college degree. Like every modern Orthodox rabbi needs to have a college degree.
Okay, so this is the law they made, and then he says,
"Where in Europe was it made? Which part of Europe?"
In Russia. The maskilim convinced them to do this. There was such a thing. Every city had a Rav Mitam, which was like the official Rav, but he didn't really paskin anything because he was usually an Amaretz. And then they had
like Moshe David Tendler claimed because he has a PhD and has a medical degree, therefore he knows more about life than his father-in-law did.
So
he says that.
Then he says that they make the kids learn in school secular studies. What's tashbar mean? Laharkiv limudei chachmas zaros im limudei haTorah. Shahariyanim mitzuvim ben chamish lemikra. The rest of the Mishnah. There's a lot to learn. From 5 years old, you're supposed to learn chumash and 10 Mishnah. So how do you have time for this? So they're being mevatel Torah from the Jews. So because of that, he says that's their aveiros hashvua. Very interesting. But al kaponim, he says that it's only to be marba b'tachanunim. V'agam shedavar zehu neged hashvua shelo yidchu kisaketz b'yarbas b'tachanunim. So it's still mutter to do it.
But Tachanunim, still
Tachanunim, only Tachanunim. And then again, the Marshak on the Haggadah I have in page 14, you see Reb Shlomo Kluger, he says also that they that they daven too much for the Gula, and how is the mutter? The answer is because of this. But again, it's only you can look at it's only to daven too much. Okay, so that's so much.
Why dafka davening is mutter too much in Tachanunim and not
Well, because here's the pshat. When the goyim are going too far and they're shvua and they go overboard and they do too much oppression, then it comes time for the gula. But sometimes you need the schus of tefillah also. But when we daven, we're not davening to bring it before its time. We're davening to bring it in the time. We're just saying this is the time. That looks like it's the time because it looks like the goyim were already over on their shvua. But we're leaving it up to Hashem. We're not saying we're not taking action.
We're trying to raise our schus for the gula to come closer.
Right, so tefillah,
but by force, she knows the chusuk. It's our forceful power.
Exactly, and also tefillah is not really a kfira in Hashem's hashgacha. It doesn't show that you don't care about how He runs the world. You want to run it yourself. No, you know that the galus and geula is in the hands of Hashem. But you're just davening that it should come closer because you hold that it should be now. Now this ties in what I'm about to say with this next raya. This is obviously after the Rebbe, but it's Meir Kahana, big Zionist. So he wrote a sefer called Or HaRayon.
But you know what? Meir Kahana was even challenged by radical Zionists.
Yeah, he was a real. He was a real terrorist.
Viewed to exterminate Arabs. Even radical Zionist challenges views.
So let's just see how he deals with the Shalosh Shavuos. He has a chapter here, Perek Chavav Shalosh Shavuos. All right.
Yeah.
And here's what he says about them. He says, L'maiseh Shalosh Shavuos Einon Ela Shtayim LiYisrael V'Achas Lumus Olam. He says the 3 oaths is a misnomer. It's not 3. It's only 2 to the Yidden and 1 to the Goyim. V'chosheshani shema'atim me'elam istamchim al divrei Gemara omnam ro'u es hasugya v'lamduha. He says, I'm afraid that many of the people who are relying on the Shalosh Shavuos to oppose Zionism ever actually looked up the Gemara. He says, V'zel l'shon HaGemara. Shalosh shvuos halal lama achas shelo yalu Yisrael b'chayma yachad b'yad chazaka v'achas sheyishbiach Kodesh Baruch Yisrael shelo yimud mos ha'olam v'achas sheyishbiach Kodesh Baruch Hu ha'goyim shelo yishtavdu ben Yisrael yosim midai. Uva medrash. Now listen to this medrash. Nemar shir shirim rabba Rabbi Yosi bar Chanina Amar shtei shvuos yeshkan. There are two oaths here. Achas liYisrael v'achas l'umas ha'olam. Nishpa liYisrael shelo yimdu oil malchias. He imposed an oath on the Jews not to rebel against the kingdoms, and he says Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina roya shtei shvuos liYisrael shemeseches ksuvas kachas. He sees that the two oaths on the Jews are really one. In other words, not to go up as a wall, not to rebel, is all one idea. And then the other shvuah that's on the nations says v'nishla malamalchias shelo yakshu oil al Yisrael she'im makshim oil al Yisrael. The Medrash says if the goyim are going to oppress too much, then hein garmin lakates lavai shaloi b'yanasai. They will cause the end to come before its time.
Right, which is not a right, because it doesn't say that you don't force. It just said Hashem had to bring forth
Hashem
time.
will do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what he takes from this. He says, Uvachein, Shma'as Musar Chazal. Hear what Chazal are trying to tell us here. V'yasman shalim dunakan. Siba sashvua li Yisrael. The reason for the oath upon the Jews is Shelo yimredu b'umas ha'olam la'alos b'choyma. The reason for this oath is Shebediuk k'moy shelo hayi Yisrael ru'uyim li'ikanis l'Eretz Yisrael b'dor midbar. Just like the Jews weren't worthy to enter the Eretz Yisrael in the Dor Midbar for 40 years, right? After the Meraglim sin. So, Kach ein Yisrael begal zu ru'uyim lachzor l'Eretz Yisrael. The Jews aren't worthy to go back. Kol zman shelo yachzor b'tshuva. Right? Until they do tshuva. V'yakum dor im nefesh gavoya. A generation arrives that has a high soul, a high, like a uplifted soul. V'rama b'bitachon b'Hashem, they trust Hashem. As long as they don't do that, that's why it's also to go back. The galus is a punishment for our sins. If we don't do tshuva, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will, when the time comes, the last possible time, He'll do it. Not when we want it. When we're still sinning. HaKadosh Baruch Hu ishbiya loy b'achis Yisrael el gamas hagoyim. He also is mashbiya the goyim. V'yashvua liYisrael v'yashvua l'goyim haba hatalya. They depend on each other. Ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu loy ratza sha'agolos timashich chas v'shalom doris al doris b'yinuim biltim nisbalim. He didn't want us to suffer on and on for hundreds of years. That you can't expect a human being to suffer so much. To chil Hashem when the goyim oppresses too much. It shows that they're not scared of Hashem. They don't see that Hashem is a serious power in the world. So therefore Hashem said, when they oppress you too much, then you're allowed to break out of it, according to him, because then it takes away the chil Hashem. But his mistake is, it doesn't mean that we're allowed to break out. It means that it will end before its time.
Yeah.
But Hashem will bring the end. So
if we use our hand, we'll see that we're the ones in power, and that the whole point of college was they're absolutely under Hashem.
Exactly. So it will defeat the whole purpose of what
right? We're the ones in power to get away with our own power. Otherwise, it's going to be worse.
So it will defeat them. So this ties in what we're saying before, that davening too much becomes mutter when they're over on their shvuah. Why is davening too much become mutter? Because we see that this medrash is being miskayim. The goyim were over on theirs. Now it's chil Hashem. It's time for the goyim to end early, so we can daven, but not more than that. And just to show, I have the copy of the Medrash here. I don't think I have to read it because he brings the exact lashon. Medrash, page 16, and then on page 17, I have a very interesting thing here. The Shitu Mikubetzis on Ksuas brings down the Talmidei Harashba, and he says like
Who
this.
was the Shitu Mikubetzis?
Shitu Mikubetzis is Rebbe Tzal Ashkenazi. In Egypt, in the time of the Arizal. I think he was the Arizal's rebbe. So he says, "V'zel Hashayin Talmidei Arashba Zal Hishbati Eschem Nois Yerushalayim Im Timtzu Es Doidi." This is one of the shuas that's not mentioned in the Shalosh Shuas. If you find my beloved, Ma Tagidu Loi. So he says, "Hahu Knesset Yisrael Dekami L'Umas Olam." The Jewish people are saying to the goyim, after he made the shvuah on them not to oppress us too much, he calls the goyim b'nois Yerushalayim.
How did the goyim become b'nois Yerushalayim?
Al shem shehem achshav, because they're now they're now. I can't read this word here. Pirush. I think.
Let me take a look. Maybe I can.
I think it's. I think it's a misprint. It's supposed to say something else. I forgot what it's supposed to say.
Right, so
anyway, but the point is that they're there. Oh, it's supposed to be Birushalayim. That's what it is. This pay is supposed to be a base, and it's supposed to be Yerushalayim. So it calls the Goyim Benois Yerushalayim because they're in Yerushalayim during the Galus. The Muslims or whatever, the Christians, they're occupying Yerushalayim. And it says like this: V'achi kamer lo tishtabdu bohem yoister midai. Don't afflict the Jews too much, because then you'll cause me I'll wake up my love for the Jews before it's time. He can't see the Jews suffering so much and not save them. Like we say elsewhere, like the Gemara in Sanhedrin, it says that when the time comes, right, and let's say the Yidden didn't do tshuva yet, He'll make them do tshuva. So the Talmidei Rashba are saying the same thing with this medrash in Shir Shir Rabbah. That they basically, the time has to come, there'll have to be a gula, no matter what. Okay? And then one more Mar Malcolm sheet here before we go on. Page 18. This is, I couldn't find the sefer inside, but it's called the Kitzer Al-Shich. It's by Rabbi Yosef Dayana.
By the Al-Shich?
It's quotes from the Al-Shich.
Who was the Al-Shich again?
The Al-Shich is Rav Moshe Al-Shich. He was from Sfas, from the time of the Arizal.
He was a Talmud of his?
He was the Talmud of the Beis Yosef, I think. Maybe the same door as the Beis Yosef. So, this Al-Shich, but this is not the Al-Shich himself. I couldn't find this in the actual sefer of the Al-Shich. Talmud? This is another person later on, a couple hundred years later in Krakow, who made a Rabbi Yosef Dayana.
Dayana, all right.
And he made a compilation of quotes from the Al-Shich on the Torah. But I don't know where the sefer is to be found. I tried to look for it. But when we put together this Efes Biltucha, we had the sefer somehow. Anyway, he says like this: Here he says that the Jews are Benois Yerushalayim. Ani mashpia eschem b'tzvayis ba'alus asada. Im to'iru im to'iru so'ava. Isa b'gemar ksubas. Okay, so he quotes the whole Gemara Ksubas, and then he says, "V'im kain." Here's the key words: "Im yavru Yisrael al es shvuasam." If we're over on our shvua, the yidchachu es haketz, Hakadosh Baruch Hu yatir le'umay shvuasam. Punkt bakeret. From the way that all these Zionists are saying, that if we're over on our shvua, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be matir the goyim their shvua, and they'll be allowed lishtabed b'Yisrael af yoysim midai. They'll be allowed to go overboard, and then vani matir es besachem. That's the oynish that the Gemara says. Lehumay. So I'll be matir your bosser for them. Shani matir lahem es shvuasim. Okay. Ubesarchem yehefker lahem kitzvayis like alos hasada. Kitzer, he's saying that the shvuas are tali zebazeh, but the other way around. But again, it's a shtickle shver, because how could you say the goyim are allowed just because we did something wrong?
Because the goyim have no real eating of a shvuah. But I have a real
understand, but we understood the goyim shvuah is not really a shvuah. It's more like it's anyway aser. It's anyway to kill and torture people is aser. So what's pshat that Hashem is going to be matir them to do something that's wrong according to the Sheva mitzvahs?
It doesn't mean matir. He won't punish them. He just won't prevent them from doing it.
Oh, so that's the point. Obviously, this matir doesn't mean that the shvuah became mutter and it's mutter for them to kill and do all this stuff. It just means that Hashem will cause that to happen as an oynish for us.
Yeah, because matir really also means to let go. It doesn't mean permit. Like matir asur means to let prisoners free. See, Shabsai Tzvi, pervert the bracha to be to matir the forbidden. Right. And he made a bracha on chel, matir asur.
Matir asur, right. Okay, so let's go on now. It's back to Siman Ayin Hey. The rest of this Siman is about something totally different.
So this is by the Kitzer Al-Shich by Moshe Dayano?
Yosef Dayano.
Yosef Dayano. In Krakow.
Okay. Back to the Vayol Moshe now. So this last part of the Siman has nothing to do with what we said up till now, except that there's one little connection that he's about to say something from the Zohar that the future Geula will be in the hands of Hashem, and his point is that since the Geula is in the hands of Hashem, obviously we can't do something on our own based on what the Goyim do. So take a look. V'zel Zohar Kadosh Parshas Vayikra Daf Vav. Tachazi, he says, come and see Bekulhu Galus Galavasa and all the other exiles, the Galu Yisrael Lukuhu Shavi Zmana. All of them Hashem set a time for them to end. v'kitza, and an end. Uvekulu havi Yisrael chayavin l'kud shabrichu, taivin l'kud shabrichu. And all of them, the Jews came back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Uvesulas Yisrael havas tavas asroha. The Besulas Yisrael, the Jewish people came back to their place. And when the time came that he was geyser, like the 70 years of Babel was up, came back. However, in this current exile, Basra, this last exile, Lavachi, it's not so. She's not going to go back like the other times. And this is the proof from this pasuk that the Jewish people has fallen in such a way that she'll never get up again. It doesn't say that she'll never be raised up by Hashem. It just says she won't get up on her own. Right? The Gemara in Brachas Daf Daled asked this kasha already. The Gemara says, how could you have the Jewish people have fallen and never get up again? So the Gemara answers that she'll never fall again, and kum, get up, Besulas Yisrael. That's the Gemara's teretz. But Zohar is answering a different teretz. Zohar is answering that she won't get up on her own. Hashem will get her up. Okay? Mashal, there is a mashal. L'malka de Ragus al-Matronisa. There was a king who was angry at his noble woman. V'ashti la mehechle, and he kicked her out of his palace. L'zimni yediyah for a certain amount of time. Kad havamati ayizimna miyad Matronisa havas alas v'tavas kami malka. When the time came, the woman came back. The wife came back to the king. V'chad zimna chad utrain utlas zimnin. V'kain zimna chad utrain utlas zimnin. This happened 2 or 3 times more. But Lazimna Basraisa, the last time, is Rachakas Mehechla de Malka. She was put far away from the palace. The Ashti Lo Malka Mehechle Lazimna Rechika. He made it a long time, and he didn't give her his man. Omer Malka, Hai Zimna Lav Hu Kashar Zimnim. The king said, this is not like the previous times. The Hi Tesi Kamoi Hachi. That she came back to me. Ela Ana Ezil Im Kol B'nei Hechli. I'll go with all the people of my palace, and V'espa and I'll go and invite her back. Kad Mata Legabo, and he came to her. Chamala to have a shchiva la'afra. He saw her lying down in the dust. Man Chama Yikar de Matronisa. So, it would be great to see who could see the covet, the great covet that this woman got. Zimna Uvusin de Malka Lakivala. When the king asked her and invited her to come back, the Achila Malka Bidoi, until the king grabbed her with his hands. The Oikim Law, and he lifted her up. The Aisi Law Hechle, and brought her to his palace. The Oimi Law, and he swore to her, he'll never separate from her forever. All the other times that the Jews went into Galus, when the time came, she came back. She came back to the king. It's not like this. He's going to grab with his hands. He's going to pick us up, and make up with us, and bring back to his palace.
So the beferish toll against Zionism, beferish mamish.
Yeah.
The beferish against Yivin of the Valatrev of the Zohar says all these signs.
Yeah, okay. The Tachazi, and come and see the Hachihu, that this is how it is. The Haksiv nafla lois taisiv kum. That this pasuk says she won't get up again. I will raise up the Sukkos David, the base of Mikdash, or maybe it's Klal Yisrael. She won't get up herself. I will get her up. Yuyin Sham. The Pirush Orach Chama on the Zohar says, "Sheyesh bozek kina." I don't know. It says, "Sheyesh bozek kina v'gam nechama." There is something sad about this, but something comforting about this. Why? Ki akina hi arichas hagalus. The kina, the sad part is that the galus is going to be very long. She won't be able to get up on her own. Ad sheyochi la HaKadosh Baruch Hu biyadei v'yoikim la v'hi nechama. And that gufa is the comfort. Since she can't get up on her own, HaKadosh Baruch Hu kima nitzchis. It will be an eternal getting up. She won't fall down again. There won't be any other exile after this. Okay. See, and by the way, there's a sefer called Bracha Meshuleshes by the Bnei Yisachar, he was from Dinov, Tzvi Elimelech from Dinov, one of the early Hasidic rebbes. He wrote a sefer called Bracha Mishuleshes, and on Masechta Chulin, it's on the Shnayos. On Masechta Chulin, he brings down this Zohar, and he says this is the makor for the reason why we changed our custom nowadays about chasnas. In the old days, a chasna was, in the time of the Gemara, the chasna took place in the husband's house, in the chassan's house. The father
house? What do you mean? Isn't
the father of the chassan bought his son a house. And it says Amasi Isha Libnoi B'Bais Kanoi. If someone marries off a wife to his son in the house, he was kohen to the house. It means the father used to buy a house for the young couple, and then he would bring the wife into that house and make the chasna in that house. But nowadays, the minhag changed. The minhag is that we make the chasna by the college parents, by the city where they live. And he says, why? Because we're showing that this galus is different from the previous galuses. Galus, before, the Yidden came back to Hashem. Hashem is like the chasna, we're like the kala. In this galus, the chasna is going to come to the kala, Hashem is going to come to us and bring us out of galus. Okay, so now, next paragraph. V'hinei gam b'geulos hakoydmos, even in the previous redemption. So you see, the Zohar is saying that the previous geulos happened when the Yidden came back to Hashem on their own. So he's saying even that's not like Zionism. Even that was a lot more from Shemaim than Zionism. He says like
because Nevuah, all came from Nevuah.
Right. He says Gam b'geulos hakoydmos afshi yadu azman. Even though they had a time limit, they knew the galus was going to end. Afa pichein haya hakol al pi nevuah. They did everything with the nevuah b'shlichusa shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shegam b'mei Ezra shloihayis galus k'moy b'Mitzrayim. Even in the time of Ezra, when there was no like open nisim like in Mitzrayim, they didn't do any actions without any prophecy. Like we see in the psukim there that Chagai and Malachi, right, were misnabe about the Geula, and they acted on that. He says that every little action they took, it was done with the command of Hashem. The Ezra HaSofer, Shahaya Navi Emes Haya Hamanik. The leader of that return was Ezra HaSofer, who was a Navi. When we call Makom, Kasu B'Zohar Kodesh, and still the Zohar calls this from our side. He calls it that the Yidden are coming back on their own. Shekol HaGeulus HaKoyd Min Hayu B'B'chinas Shehi Tavas Kamei Malka, that she went back to the king, V'lo Yakein B'Galus Hazeh. And she went back to the king, and he says, this is not what's going to happen in the future galus. In this galus, we're not going to be able to get up on our own. Until Kodesh Baruch Hu comes with all his malachim, and he lifts us up. V'chein mevur b'Zohar HaKadosh Parshas Pekudei Daf Reish Lamed Tesam Beis Uv'tikunim she'asur l'meika me'atzmam. It's asur to get up on our own. V'alkein v'al korchach she'i efsher ela b'bechina gavoya yoyster me'agulas hakoydmos. If the gulas hakoydmos were with nevuah, and still the Zohar calls that from Klal Yisrael, so here where the Zohar is saying it's going to happen from Hashem, obviously it must be a higher level of involvement of Hashem. V'kal v'chomer shaloi lakum me'atzmoi. So for sure, we're not going to get up in this, taking our own initiative, in this lowly way, that the apikorsim do in our time. That's for sure against this pasuk, that she won't get up on her own. And someone who thinks this is possible, it's apikorsis. Chush made. He says the experience shows b'chol elu adoros, in all the past generations, shekol oisan shahalchu b'machshava zu, that any movement that took on this kind of a goal, likach memshalo geula miatzmam, that they went to take over and make their own kingdom, koydem bias hamashiach, nasu achar kach minim v'apikosim legamri. Now, who is he referring to? Maybe Shabbos Tzvi? I don't know. I don't know if they actually tried to take over any government, but they were people who said they were going to do it. But there's some kind of a heresy in this idea, so it causes other apikosis to come out of it.